All right, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Business Blast podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Wagner. Today, I have Erica Quigley with us. She is a consultant who helps make entrepreneurs' lives a little easier by creating a clear path with operational strategy, revenue planning, and business systems and tools. So welcome to the show.
Thanks so much, Tyler, for having me.
Of course. I'm grateful to have you on. So, Erica, the first question we ask on this show is, what is the best story from your life that has an underlying valuable message?
Well, for me, and it's funny because I was always thinking as I started my business, like, oh, I don't have a story. And then one happened to me. And so I was working my way up the corporate ladder for about 10, 11 years. And when I started, I really loved what I was doing. But the further I got into it, it just became this cycle of like, what's the next step? What's the next step? I have to do the next thing. Not really considering if that is what I really wanted to do, but it just felt like that was what I was supposed to do. And so starting my own business was outside of the norm for me because it wasn't like the natural next step in my process, but I knew I had to do something different. So I tried to do that along with my career. I ended up, lots of late night workings. I had 2 small kids. I ended up getting really sick because I thought the harder I worked, the more successful I would be. And I attributed that to not sleeping and long hours and trying to be the best mom and the best worker and the best person who could start their business. And I ended up in the hospital for 5 days and then was home recovering for quite a while afterwards. And when that happened, I got to see life from another perspective, from like removing that busyness out of my life. And it made me realize that you don't have to sacrifice your own happiness to make a successful life for your family, because success is what you make of it, and you can have both things.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. I think that's it's a big thing. I'm a big fan of Gary Vaynerchuk. Are you familiar with him?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So like, I actually interviewed him it was probably like 2 months ago. And one of the things he actually said on this show was that he kind of wanted to kind of restate like what he means by hustle, right? So, because I think when you watch somebody like him and like these other people that are like crushing it, like you forget that you have to also take care of your like health, because you're just like, oh, okay, well, if Gary can do 16 hours a day, then I can. And it's like, well, you don't know really all behind the scenes of what's going on. Like he has a health coach that's like monitoring him you know what I mean? So
absolutely.
It was cool to like hear him say that. And so I just think that's an important note to say that, it is good to put in the long hours, but you also have to, obviously take care of your health. So,
Right.
So the next one I got for you, thanks for sharing that as well, is what is the most valuable piece of information we should know that's within your expertise or industry?
This one is interesting because I think people are going to be like, what are you talking about? So when I'm working with businesses or entrepreneurs, the piece of advice I give them is when we work through is how can I make myself obsolete? And that might seem weird to somebody, especially like a one-person business. And you as one person can't make yourself entirely obsolete. But if you switch your mind frame and you start thinking about what in my business can I make myself obsolete for, then that opens you up to looking at things from another perspective, like what can I automate? What kind of tools can I put in? If I had a family issue and I needed to take tomorrow off, could I be out of contact for the whole day and it would be okay? Like would the tools that I have and the systems that I've set up be able to support me for that period? And particularly in large companies, obviously it's a little easier, but in small business, I think it's extremely important to think the same way. How can I make myself as obsolete as possible, make my business run?
And it could tie in. The next one I got for you is what is your best piece of overall business advice? So not necessarily industry specific.
A minute in planning saves 10 minutes of execution. Plan now and save for having to fix things later.
Yeah, I can agree with that. And the next one I got for you is, if you could give your younger self one piece of advice, what would that be?
Don't take yourself so seriously, or don't take life so seriously. I always thought it was supposed to be serious. I don't know where I got that from, but like my mom said that when I was born, I was like a little miserable 40-year-old because I didn't know. I didn't like laugh. I remember I was like a flower girl in a wedding when I was 5 or 6, and someone was like, you can smile. This is happy. So I would look back and I would tell myself, please enjoy things. It's not so serious. You're here to have fun.
Well, that's a perfect lead way into our next one. In your opinion, what is the key to happiness?
To stop caring what people think. The more true you are to yourself, and the more you do what you know is right and what you believe in and share what you know, the more that comes back to you in return.
And what is the best book that you've read, and what was the number one thing you learned from that?
All right, I couldn't decide, so I had to give you two.
That works.
Breaking the rules. The Freakonomics books by Levitt and Dubner, I know that they're really big, and being a problem solver, I really like the root cause of things, and so they taught me how to look at things from a different perspective, and that things aren't always what they seem. And then early in my career, I read the book, The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team by Patrick Lencioni. And it is a quick read if anyone hasn't read it. Patrick Lencioni is a fabulous author, and he writes business books, but in a story format. And that taught me that trust is really foundational. Without trust, you are afraid to create conflict, so you don't bring up when there's problems. You can't get commitment from people or accountability, and therefore you can't get the results you need. And so really, in order to work in a team and in an environment that is going to get results, everybody has to trust each other, has to have open and honest communication.
I love it. Well, listen, thank you so much for coming on. I have another one too. What is your favorite quote and why?
There is no passion to be found in settling for a life that is less than the one you're capable of living. And that was Nelson Mandela.
Yes. And where can our audience best find you online?
I'm at ericaq.com, ERICAQ.com. And my Facebook and Instagram is ericaqbiz, ERICAQBIZ.
Perfect. Thanks again for coming on.
Thanks so much, Tyler.
The podcast you just heard was made using Anchor. Ever thought about making your own podcast? Anchor makes it really easy for anyone to get started. It's a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing podcasts. Best of all, it's 100% free. Sign up now at anchor.fm/new. That's anchor.fm/new to get started.